can participate, just not vote. Is that correct?
Right.
All right.
Right, cannot vote.
So because I can't hear him, and I know he always has valuable things to say, that's for the record, you'll let us know somehow or other how he can communicate? I mean, can he talk to you if he's on your computer, or?
Yes, you can hear him right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like, Sal, you can hear us, right?
Yeah, I can hear. As long as one person at a time's talking, I can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Good.
Good morning, everyone.
I hope your recovery is going well.
It is. Thank you very
We
much.
could actually take a vote of the committee if you'd like and make it official. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment on items related to the agenda. Don't see any members of the public present in the room. Nobody's hiding on your computer?
No.
Okay.
Just Sal.
Then that opportunity has gone. Next item is a tad awkward for me. It's election of chairperson. It's something we do every year, and I've had the true pleasure of serving in the position for the next year, but elections are only 1 year at a time for this position, so I think I will just seek nominations, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
I nominate Keith.
Oh, thank you. Does that, I presume that needs a second? Are there any more nominations? Okay, well, I will express my willingness to continue in the position, and I'm not going to do a campaign speech here, but I have enjoyed the responsibilities and the interactions, and quite happy to serve another year. So is this a roll call vote, or?
Do you need a motion? Yeah. A motion.
Okay, so the nominations are closed since nobody else was nominated. Now it needs a motion. Is that it? Okay.
Move to approve Keith
I'll
as
say
the
the-
chairman of the audit committee for this year.
Thank you. Any discussion? And I'm happy to leave the room if anybody with no offense taken. But that said, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposed? All right, well, thank you all for getting me through this little bit of awkwardness, and hope to continue to not disappoint you in your choice. We had the minutes of the December 18th meeting, which, as Trevor mentioned to me, gee, weren't we just here? So we were. But any corrections or comments on the minutes? Otherwise, entertain a motion to approve them. Thank you. A second? Okay. Does that require a roll call, or just all in favor? Aye? Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Terrific. We have our minutes approved. The next item is an executive session. I do intend to call an executive session, but just for an efficiency of not moving people in and out of the room and on and off, our technology will push that to the end of the meeting, which then takes us to old business, and that would be Corey.
Thank you, Keith, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for making it in. I know there were some accidents and traffic problems out there this morning, so I appreciate everyone getting in on time. Item Old business item 7A are the follow-up items from the fourth quarter meeting, which I have up on the screen. They were included in your attachments. The first two items are recurring items that are in the monthly updates that are sent to the committee. I don't need to go into those in detail. Those are still ongoing, and I will keep the committee updated through monthly updates, or if anything urgent comes up, I will communicate that to the committee. Item number 3, this came up last committee meeting where we were talking about the 2026 audit plan. There was comments on the audit coverage requirements, which I believe was 2021, 2022 when those were established. Ever since they were established, due to constraints and resources, we aren't able to get to that audit coverage requirement every 5 years, trying to audit or review every auditable unit, which we're up to 105 right now with the functional units that were added last year. It just is not possible currently. So one thing that we internally have been discussing, and I'll discuss with the chair over the next few months, is to come back with a change in that language for the second quarter meeting to include in our 2027 audit plan. And also, we will be going through the peer review at that time, so I will inquire with them too to see if there's any best practices or any recommendations they may have on that as well. So I did want to bring it up because I know that was discussed briefly last meeting.
Well, I'll just note, I'm wholly supportive, obviously, of our reviewing that policy. And my editorial comment is it's largely a challenge because of availability of audit hours and the need to prioritize within the resources that we have, which will continue me lobbying however I can for budget for more resources. Okay. That it for old business?
That is all, yes.
Wonderful. That takes us to other business, and the first item, 8A on our agenda, is the External Audit Entrance Conference, which was held last week, I think.
Yes, it was on January 29th.
Would you like to report on it?
Yes, this was the agenda item, which is acknowledged annually that the audit committee, as required by the charter and audit committee bylaws, to be the board that the external auditors present to for the pre-audit conference and the exit conference. So the pre-audit conference is really just it's just the start of the annual audit, and acknowledging that took place at this meeting. Clark Schaefer Hackett met in a private session, which is allowed under Ohio Revised Code last week with the audit committee, went over the plan for this year and any new updates that they'll be going through the 2025 audit.
Can you just remind us, most of us were on that call, so we know what transpired. It was a good call. But can you just remind us what role your department plays during the course of the audit, what the interactions are?
Yes, our department, we play many roles, really. The main role is if there's any requests that need to go out to, especially like last year, non-executive agencies, help kind of getting those requests out and obtaining support for the external auditors. Also, if there's any questions related to our audits, that way we're not duplicating any work, that comes up. But really, we're kind of, I would say we're more of a liaison to help obtain information and gather support for the fiscal office, for the external auditors.
Right. Anybody have any questions about the external audit process? If not, we'll move on. Confirm independence of audit personnel.
Yes. In accordance with our auditing standards, we are required to complete a statement of independence annually from county operations. Every employee in our department completes one in January of every year to confirm their independence with county processes, with county vendors, and county personnel. I'm happy to report, again, for this year that there's no impairment to independence of any staff members on the team. If there is a chance of independence, we will communicate that to the committee, make sure safeguards are put in place on any audits that we may find that there's independence that's being impaired. This is just a requirement that we have to report that to the committee annually.
Okay, so noted, reported. Next item is the resident member independence disclosure. I just passed the original of mine to Corey.
I got 'em all
but,
now.
But I do believe there was an electronic copy submitted timely. Do we have everyone's cooperation and forms are in place?
Yes,
We're good?
this agenda item is just to acknowledge that all resident member independence forms have been received. The Inspector General has received all of them as well. From an audit standpoint, there were no threats to independence there, and then I did receive confirmation from the IG a couple days ago. There's no threats to independence on their side as well.
Wonderful, so we're all good to go. Annual update to council report.
This is under the Audit Committee bylaws as a requirement to provide an update to council on Audit Committee's compliance with the charter and the department's highlights from the prior year. Similar to past years, I will develop a update to council report for the Audit Committee's review and approval and a presentation. I plan to have that drafted similar to last year by the end of February. The committee will have a chance to review that report, to ask any questions before I send it to council. The presentation to council, which I just received this week, is on March 31st. I don't think anything has changed there. Similar to last year, it'll be a presentation, annual update from myself, internal audit, and the IG on that date.
Am I correct that it does not take a formal motion by this committee to approve that report? You're circulating it among us for comment, but not for approval.
Right. It'll be similar to how we circulate, how we send out reports to committee for just audit reports that are released. We'll send it, give the committee 2 weeks if there's any comments or questions. If it needs to be held, it can be held. But if there's no reason to hold it or any questions, we will proceed with the presentation on March 31st.
And what time of day or what time frame might you expect that to occur?
It's typically at 1 or 3. I don't know, Trevor, if
Either could be 1 or 3, depending on what other committees are scheduled, but it's normally 3, but he
Normally,
might move
okay.
it up.
I wasn't given a time, but it'll be that day for sure.
So we can join it with.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other thing would be when you do send out the draft of the report, give us a deadline, reasonable deadline to respond to you so that it's giving you the opportunity to process any thoughts that anyone has to finalize the report. Okay, next item on the agenda, 8E, is titled Director Evaluation. As I'm sure you will all recall, we have the annual responsibility to evaluate the director. The process that we used last year, in my judgment, worked very well. Certainly happy to entertain any additional thoughts as we are on this agenda item. Corey has already prepared and provided me with a copy of his self-evaluation for my review. I've not done that yet. I received it relatively recently, but I will, and I'll have a discussion with him, and he may or may not change anything based on that. and then we will circulate that to the committee for comment. And ultimately, then timely basis, getting back to Corey with our combined thoughts and any counseling that that we wish to do in either direction, I might point out, because I always find that kind of process often can be very instructional for the evaluators as well as the evaluatee. Do we have a date by which that is by charter or our policies required to be done?
No, last year, the process was that you would receive, the chairman would receive the evaluation by this meeting.
Right.
And take the next few weeks or month to discuss and then send it off to the committee.
And ultimately, the approval of it could be in our May meeting,
Right,
whenever our
right.
second quarter meeting.
That would be the plan.
Yep, okay. So, any thoughts that anyone has, having gone through the process last year? If there's any suggestions on how to improve it, certainly open to doing so. Right. Okay. Moving right along. Update of internal audit policies. This is not likely to take long.
No, this is on the audit committee calendar and part of our stand is to at least mention every year that they've been reviewed. As noted in the follow-up items, this will be a old business item next meeting to talk about the audit coverage requirements.
Great.
But nothing for today.
And that takes us to the 2026 audit plan, a copy of which is in our materials.
All right, if okay with the audit committee, I'd like to address, it would be items G and H on the agenda. The first item being the 2026 audit plan report, which also includes the performance related to prior year.
Please do.
So I can address all of them at the same time here. Okay. In referencing to attachment A-8.G, it's also page 8 on the PDF attachment if you're following that way. The 2026 audit plan was presented at the fourth quarter meeting, and it was tentatively approved by the audit committee, which allowed us to begin work on it in January of this year. Since that meeting, we have engaged in discussions and held meetings with auditees to confirm that the plan remains feasible and to consider any adjustments, if any. The updated audit plan, now presented for final approval at this meeting, is in the annual audit plan report. It is included on pages 12 through 15. There are no changes to the engagements from the tentative audit plan approved last meeting. The only adjustments made were there were some hours to reflect more realistic timelines and available resources at that time. As presented in the December meeting, we will focus our audit efforts on higher risk areas such as property tax rates, inventory asset management, and county budgeting. We narrowed down scopes and objectives to focus on the most critical areas of these engagements. For this meeting, I plan to walk through the 2026 audit plan report and respectfully request approval of the report at today's meeting. If approved, the report will be posted to the internal audit website. It would be shared with county council. In addition to the 2026 annual audit plan and the report also includes key performance metrics and results from 2025 engagements. So I will begin with the 2025 audit plan results, which is on page 6 in the report. As you can see, there were a total of 11 engagements that were released or completed in 2025. 2 engagements were carried into 2026, and 1 engagement, which was early on in the year, the ethics review was removed. There were 7 engagements deferred, all of which are noted at the bottom of this table or below this table on all the engagements that were completed, when they were released, and the 2 engagements that are still in progress. I don't know if anyone has any questions related to any of these items. All engagements that were released have been discussed at a audit committee meeting throughout the year. The only one that hasn't, which will be today, would be the continuous monitoring reviews for 2025. All right. If there are no questions on those, I'll move on to page 8. Page 8 and 9 include the key performance indicators that were established about a year ago through the audit committee and the audit manual. Page 9 includes a table with each of these metrics. Sorry, I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but the audit plan completion metric for 2025 was at 85% of the total audit plan. So that's 11 out of 13 audit engagements were released throughout the year, which exceeded the department's goal of 75%. The resource utilization, another key metric that's tracked, we were above our 60% target for the year. As you can see, we're at 60.8 to be exact. Our target is to get above 60%, which this is the first year we were able to do it, which means majority of our time, at least to our target, was spent directly on audit hours or audit engagement. So as you can see over the years, we did spend more time related to audit engagements, audit reviews, risk assessments. The overall coverage, the audit coverage for the year on the audit universe was 71%. The high coverage rate, which is on high risk areas based on our risk assessment, reached 90% in 2025, although it's still falling short of the 100% that we strive to get every year. That again is the highest that we've seen since tracking this metric. I do want to note that, as you can see, the overall audit coverage at 71% and the high risk coverage at 90%. The reason for the spike, from what we could tell, is the continuous monitoring efforts from 2025. By doing that and having more reach in the county for some of these continuous monitoring efforts, we're able to review other areas of the county more timely and more often. The last metric I want to bring up is the average budget versus actuals. As you can see, our average for per engagement, budget versus actuals, was actually $150 under what we projected per engagements, meaning that we spent more hours than we initially planned throughout the year on these engagements. And that continues to be something that we are striving to improve on, especially in 2026, to make sure that not only are we accurately budgeting for it throughout the year, but that we mainly focus throughout our planning phases to adjust that number to as close as possible. And I know it's still an estimate, but we still strive to be as close to zero as possible there.
Corey, how do you think we can get better at that? Because I do feel like we're always under budget those hours, and I know, things come up and you get in a certain area in an audit, but I mean, it does seem like every audit we're always
Right.
over our hours.
There's two things. One, and if all my staff's listening right now, they're going to be sick of me saying this, but we've the last month and a half or so, a lot of our meetings, we've talked about this. So we have goals for this year to try to accomplish more accurate estimation of how many hours it actually takes, and really narrowing down and focusing on what our objectives are to hit the higher risk areas in these audits. So one of the goals for everybody, including myself, is our planning phase, consistency in our planning phase. And when we get to the end of our planning phase, making sure that we addressed everything, we will have extra steps in there throughout our planning phase before we get into actual testing. So there's some areas there in the planning phase that we really want to focus on for consistency across all engagements, because we have we have engagements that are, assurance engagements, engagements that are advisory. So part of all of our goals this year is to really address that and use our team meetings to really talk about that. One thing that I did discuss with Keith is when we develop our hours right now over the last month or so, those hours could change throughout our planning process. So one of the things we want to put into our BVAs that we report out every month is another column that shows, after we go through planning, here's the actual hours it's going to take. If you look at the BVA, some of these engagements do take less hours than what we initially planned. So we want to try to track that a little better, like as we go through planning, what the hours come out of planning of how long it's going to take. So this is definitely a area of focus we have for this year.
You know, it's challenging, unlike public accounting, where we're auditing the same client year after year, and we can get very specific about where were the areas that caused overruns and how can we address them. You're moving from department to department and project to project, and it makes it very hard to do that. But there are some things that occurs to me that could be done in sort of after the fact reporting of the excess hours. You might ask staff to sort of bucket them between those that are what I'll call client imposed as a result of not presenting data timely and barriers that your auditee had. That could be a bucket of time. Another bucket of time is it just took us longer. We couldn't do it as quickly as we thought we could, and there are probably two or three others, and you might develop and see are there patterns that emerge, because it's very hard to do it auditee by auditee. And also that takes me to what I consider the inherent unfairness to your department of if there are auditee imposed issues that cause the overage, the pain is felt in your budget, not theirs. And perhaps if we were able to demonstrate that, we might be able to find some ways to address it. So it's good.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll keep that in mind this year.
Any other thoughts? Well, I would say, reviewing a performance report where KPIs all improved is something that should be celebrated, congratulated, and we're very pleased. It's exactly what I think the committee would expect, but it's nice to know that expectations are being met. So thank you, and thank everyone in the department, those here and those that aren't here today.
The audit coverage overall, I have it in our department goals. I'll show you in a second. I couldn't type it out in here. That's something that we are considering revamping too. But once we get into the goals, which I believe is the next item, yeah, I'll talk about it a little bit more there. That was actually the 2021 report, sorry, but that might be confusing. It was 21 data, 21 metrics, but we noticed it in the 2024 annual report while we were putting that together. So there were just some numbers off there we wanted to adjust. All right, so I'll move into the 2026 audit plan and budgeted hours in this report that's on pages 12 through 15. So again, the final audit plan is detailed on pages 12 through 15. You can see that there are no changes to the actual audit plan. There were just a few hours adjusted here and there. The last page of the report does outline our budgeted hours for 2026, more in detail. Planning for completion of all engagements within the year. Assume over a 60% resource utilization rate. The table's first column on page 15 reflects the total hours of all engagements, including any that are deferred. The adjusted hours column accounts for budgeted resources available in 2026. And I have noted how the director's hours are determined in the plan as well. All similar to last year. I will note that we do have the hours for co-sourced engagements. Those hours, as mentioned last December, those hours are specifically for staff that will be working on those engagements rather than staff doing the engagement, mostly for experience and knowledge working with the co-sourced firms. Are there any questions on the 2026 audit plan, hours, and KPIs that were addressed? Yeah, we're currently putting together that informal RFP. I was hoping to be a lot further with we have four major engagements that have to start now, especially after meeting with staff. So those actual services we do not plan on utilizing until the second half of the year, just because we don't have the staff or resources to really do all of it for the first 6 months. So my plan would be to get that informal RFP out there, start that process over the next month or so here, and then get firms in to help with our audit plan beginning in July. Right. We're trying to address the higher risk areas through our internal staff first. It just happens to be that all four of those engagements need to be started as soon as possible.
I realize the financial. Would the county is their work what comes to mind is continuous monitoring. To me, oversight. And private employers internships are not, they don't have to be typical student. Students only work. There's a way of. So my question.
Yes, we definitely could, and I mean, I know that's stuff we talk about a lot, and the use of interns, I think ever since this department was created, would be great for our department. And I know I think the county has a program bringing interns in as well, but I know you and I have talked about it. To me, it's would love to do it, and I'm not saying we'll never do it, but it's just getting that in place. Having time to have staff get that in place so we can hire an intern and get them going without, with some monitoring from management. But I think the spending the time to get that in place is what we need to get through first. I don't know what that process would be. I can get more information on how that works, but I'd love to go through that process, and I know we talked about that as with CSU. But I'll get more information on how that would work. Yeah.
Allow you guys.
Right.
And I've dealt with interns.
Yeah.
To bring on board.
Okay, can we use our microphones if we're not, because certainly those, is your green light? There you go. Sal probably can't hear.
Yeah, I mean, I realize it does take time to mentor and manage interns, but, I mean, they can help with some of the work and elevate the work that the full-time auditors are doing.
I'll double down on that because I've been participating in internship programs, my firm for decades and decades. Some of the most successful I ever had were from Cleveland State, by the way, when they had co-op programs and people would keep coming back for extended periods of time. That said, unless there's a subset that have not dealt with, they're not free. Interns, accounting interns,
I was going to mention budget would
to
be
get
first off.
competitive compensation, and so while it would certainly be less than the hourly rates that we would incur with a outsourcing, it's not inconsequential. Also, and I'm not personally active recruiting, other than identifying a few people. I see in other facets of my life, but the lead time to bring quality interns on is significant. I mean, the recruiting is sometimes 6-12 months in advance of when they're going to be available. So,
Right.
But I think it's a great suggestion.
I think it's worth at least looking into what that process looks like. Thank you, Rich. All right, are there any other questions related to the 2026 audit plan?
No, just get at it. You keep those KPIs up as you're doing it.
We'll try.
Okay. Next on the agenda, then that would take us to,
Sorry, Chairman, the report still needs requesting approval for the report,
that
so I
does
can
need to
send
be
it,
approved. Thank you very
post it and
much.
send it to council.
Okay, a motion to approve the 2026 audit plan. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed, abstaining? Seeing none, unanimously approved among those voting. Okay, that takes us through that item. So that then moves us to department goals and performance objectives. Now, Corey and I have had some discussions, had the ability to preview this report, and I think we're going to enjoy hearing it.
Okay, thank you. The department goals and objectives, results from 2025 and proposed 2026 goals are included in your attachments. A-8.I, it's on page 24 if you're following in the PDF materials. The first page, these are results of 2025 performance goals that were approved by the audit committee a year ago. Auditing standards do require that both discussion and approval of department goals. And just walking through the results of 2025, the audit team was able to meet or exceed most departmental goals by the end of the year, despite numerous process improvements and changes to internal auditing standards at the beginning of the year. I do want to commend the entire auditing staff for their dedication and hard work to get through the audit plan as much as possible and achieving these goals, especially completing 85% of the initial 2025 audit plans. Some of these goals, just to note, some of these goals have been carried into the 2026 goals. On page 1 here, I have already presented most of these KPIs. I do want to point out, as Meltrice mentioned, the audit coverage universe. So the target on that, which is line 3 here. Sorry if you're having trouble seeing. The target, this was established last year. What we were trying to do is just make sure every 4 years we were adding new audit units to our audit plan. So that way, every 4 years, if we can accomplish 20% of newly audited areas, that we would get to our 100% every 5 years. That's the theory there that we were trying to get to. We were at 18% of that. So going forward, and I'll go over that too, what our plan is just to have audit coverage of 80% or more throughout the 5 years, so we can get a majority of the coverage going forward. So that was the metric we were trying to use, is really just saying basically every year, if we can get 20% new, we would get to that 100% every 5 years. So we were close. We were at 18% of newly audited units in that 4-year period, or that 1-year period for every 4 years. So I know it seems confusing, but it makes sense to us.
And if we looked at the grid of potential auditees and their the risk ranking, we would find those that we have not gotten to pretty consistently populating the bottom of the risk
Right.
profile.
Right. Okay. Yes. The only other metric I want to mention is that throughout the year, client surveys, our goal, which was increased from 2024, is to get to 75% neutral results or better. So we did have our survey responses. We did not have any responses below neutral, meaning there was no one that disagreed or strongly disagreed with our questions in the survey related to our audits. 91% of those results were agree or strongly agree. No. I would say we probably had, what were we at, about half of what we sent out, got back? Probably. We only got 9 back, which is pretty consistent with prior years. That's another area on our surveys we want to try to utilize a little bit more. It's still the same survey that we used back in like 2014, 15. So that's still another one that part of our process is we need to revamp a little bit. Okay. Page 2 of the goals. Again, these are just additional goals from the KPIs. So throughout the year, one of the goals was to promote the value of internal audit, which we did establish a new website at the beginning of 2025. And then we also started our periodic newsletters out to all county staff. We were able to complete 2 of those in 2025. Our goal this year would to complete them quarterly, so have 4 of them throughout 2026. The only other thing I really want to point out is goal number 3, ensuring compliance with the new global standards, which we did a lot of work at the beginning of the year, as you know, with the approval of the charters, the regulation, the bylaws, the audit manual. One thing we did not get to was really finalizing an internal audit strategy, which is in progress. So plan is to have that done before the peer reviewers come in. We'll share that with the audit committee as well. So there'll be more on that coming up. 2026 goals that are proposed for today, the KPIs are similar to 2025. I did increase the audit plan completion benchmark from 75% to 80%. I did also, we revamped the audit coverage to try to cover 80% of the audit universe every 5 years. And in 2026, our goal would be to not only do an internal assessment, but also an external assessment, which would be our peer review. And then I have goals before that, or below that, 3 other goals to accomplish this year. One of them being, I do want to mention to Rich, is developing a grading scale for our audit reports. It's something that we started to look at.
And again, Corey, when does the external assessment begin?
June 1st
June
is when they're
1st.
expecting to come in.
And how long do they think that'll take?
It was only a couple months. I don't have the schedule in front of me. I want to say it was 2-3 months at the most by the time we get a report.
Okay.
Should we expect that they would have any reach out or contact with the committee during the course of their audit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they'll reach out, and I wasn't here for the IAA assessment 5 years ago, but I believe it would just be a questionnaire or even a call to some committee members. I don't know if you recall that, Josh.
And then they'll report to the committee
Yes.
at whatever the next meeting following the completion of the engagement is.
Right.
Okay. Okay, any other questions regarding the 2026 goals? Pardon, 2026 goals, right. Okay. Do those need to be approved
Yes,
by the
please.
committee?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
In a second? Further discussion, questions? All in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstaining? Unanimously approved by those voting. Excellent, and have high confidence that a year from now, when you're reporting on the progress against those goals, that there'll be another outstanding report. That takes us to the Quality Assurance and Improvement Program, item 8J on the agenda.
Yes, that'll be item J, Quality Assurance and Improvement Program. This is an annual requirement that to be included on our first meeting of every year. The IAA standards require us to report internal assessment results to the committee, which is related to conformance with the auditing standards. We plan to report on the internal assessment at the first quarter meeting of every year. Due to timing of this meeting so early in the year and competing priorities, we were unable to complete the internal assessment by this meeting. We will have this meeting completed as soon as possible, or have this assessment completed as soon as possible, and by the end of February, have it to the committee for review. We'll acknowledge and report on it in the May meeting unless committee has any concerns. However, I do want to provide status on the open items from the 2021 peer review, which is included in your attachments as A-8.J. At this time, if you recall, at this time last year, there were 2 open items that were related to the standards and 2 gaps in best practices. And again, this is from the 2021 peer review external assessment that was completed by the IAA. So we still had 4 items to try to resolve. I'm happy to report that both items related to the standards, which are the first 2 pages in the report, were addressed in 2025. They relate to sufficient resources and competencies to address the audit plan and the review of governance processes, and including IT and ethics. Based on our assessment of the work done in 2025, we believe that the 2026-27 budget and the steps taken to assess the county's governance processes in our annual risk assessment, mainly by adding the functional units, that we're able to resolve both of those standards and outstanding items. One of the two best practices were addressed in 2025. The first one was redefining the audit universe to include functional units. That is on the third page in your attachment. That was completed with the annual risk assessment and in our annual risk assessment report. Although I know this is currently in the works, receiving updates, the best practice recommendation on establishment of a county ERM program is currently outstanding, so that's still a work in progress on this report. But however, we will, the next time we provide an update on the peer review results will be with the 2026 results, so that'll be a whole new, potentially a whole new recommendation, hopefully not much, but just noting that we were able to at least accomplish the outstanding items related to the standards by the 2026 peer review. So that's the only update. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Sal.
A quick question related to the IT sources for assistance in the audit department. When possible, do we use our in-house IT department to help us with resources? I know it doesn't make sense all the time to use in-house, especially if we're auditing the IT department, but when we're auditing other departments and we need IT services, are we able to use our in-house IT?
Actually, we have the IT security directors here now. So we're going through our IT security audit now, and I'm using them for a lot of help with this audit. But as far as using actual IT personnel for auditing services, I know, looking at their org chart recently, I know they still have a lot of vacant positions, and I think just resources available, I think it would be difficult to try to get them to help out with any auditing services on our end. But they have been very helpful with the audits that we go through right now, and helping us gain experience and knowledge.
So it's not that we couldn't use them, it's right now that they are shorthanded as it is.
Yes, and that would be a broader conversation too down the road if their resources are there on the IT side.
Thank you, Corey.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions in relation to this agenda item?
On the one outstanding item, it's a budget, resources, having the staffing to be able to accomplish that goal on the plan. I know that there's a lot of constraints, but I know there's been a lot of conversation on it, and it's still work in progress. I received an update the other day, so there's still a lot to consider.
Corey, one other, it says here, DIA assesses county ethics annually. How is that done?
Yes, that's through our annual risk assessment as part of a questionnaire. So like this.
Oh, through the risk assessment, okay.
Yeah, this year with the functional units, we sent, I think it was 12 surveys out to top level management, directors, chiefs, and we included questions on ethics in there.
I see.
And part of what we did last year, part of our projects now going forward, we added questions in there related to ethics. So that way, if we identify, just like we talked about last year, if we identify any gaps or any concerns related to those answers, then we can have a bigger discussion with the IG on that.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how we were able to accomplish that, through the annual risk assessment questionnaires and then our project level questionnaires.
Could I ask, when you get a chance, could you send me a copy of that questionnaire?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Other questions? Issue tracker,
Issue tracker.
it's always exciting.
Right. The semi-annual issue tracker report it's a good reference on the status of recommendations over the years. This is every 6 months, we release this report to the audit committee and then ultimately to council following approval. Again, I do appreciate all the work from Josh and staff to put together this report and follow up on recommendations. I also do want to commend department management and the administration for their efforts to resolve these issues. As we were able to reduce the number of outstanding issues, you can see in, I think it's attachment C or appendix C, we were able to reduce the number of outstanding issues down to under 200 for the first time in over 3 years. So hopefully we start to see that trend continue. We were able to follow up on 88 recommendations in the last half of 2026, which is about double what we were able to do in the first half of 2026. In 2025, the committee approved a streamlined approach to addressing outstanding issues more timely. After Josh goes through the report, I do want to talk about some recommendations we'll be discussing with the committee at today's meeting, which are also noted in your report. Do want to recognize that Jerry Mio from IT Security is here to address any questions. I don't know if Andy Johnson was planning to attend or. Okay, thank you. So Josh, take it away.
All right, so by all means, interrupt me with questions along the way. Page 1 is just the cover letter. It's got the introduction for the purpose and the description of our individual audit testing conclusions. A little further down, it kind of goes through those, fully resolved, partially. It's just our conclusion statuses. Right, on page 2, it summarizes the results of the testing efforts from July 1st through December 31st by audit, as well as assessed or assigned risk level. We reviewed 88 recommendations. Of those 88, 42 still remained open, which means that they were either partially or not resolved, and we will follow up with them again in a future year. 46 were concluded or were closed, indicating either a fully resolved, a withdrawn, or risk accepted conclusion. Page 3 and 4 has got a couple different summaries. The first one is to kind of
Let me interrupt with a question. On the risk accepted category,
Mhm.
it's always troubled me that the risk accepted is the management of the unit audited. And we close our follow-up if there's an acknowledgement of accepting the risk. My concern is that a head of an auditee, whatever level in county government that is willing to accept a risk. That still may not be acceptable to the county executive, county council, or others in governance. How do we, is escalation past that risk accepted done? Is it possible? Got a little light?
Yeah, so the process on the risk accepted items is discussed with the department. So we go through our testing, and after two attempts, It is escalated up to the, if it hasn't been addressed, discussed with the department, escalated up to the chief level of the executive's office. And if it's still not addressed after 3 follow-ups, so we'll go through another round if the executive's office wants to follow up again and try to address it. We'll attempt at the 3rd follow-up, but if it's still unresolved, we still note some significant discrepancies in our testing, which again, it's not an audit, it's just, we're just pulling a small sample. Then we will again escalate it up to the executive's office, note that at this point, we gotta close it out or bring this to the audit committee's attention. And that's where we're at today, with 4 of these recommendations on the high risk.
So we will be bringing some of these to our attention today.
We'll talk about it today.
Okay.
And we come into these, this is our first time with this new process going through this, but we'll come in with this with a, here's our plan going forward too. It's not that internal audit's just gonna say we're done with it. So that we have plans, which we've discussed with the IT department as well, on how to make sure that some of these risks, more significant risks, are still addressed.
Great.
All right, so pages 3 and 4, again, there's a couple different summaries there. Prioritized first is the results of the 52 high-risk recommendations that we reviewed during that period. Of those 52, 32 of them will remain open for additional testing in future years. The next table summarizes the results of all recommendations tested by either priority level or audit. There's actually 2 different tables there. That one on the screen right now is by audit. And then lastly on there, it provides a listing on page 4 that includes the 4 high-risk recommendations that we're going to bring up for discussion later with IT. So there's 3 appendixes on there. Appendix A provides the additional detail on each of the recommendations that we tested and summarized in the first tables. By all means, you can ask any questions that you have on any of the testing that we did. Appendix B just provides a summary of the current status of open recommendations as of 12/31. Those are all going to be tested in the future. Like Corey mentioned, we're down to under 200 for the first time in a long time. Appendix C, it just provides the criteria for our priority rating. So, what we consider as high risk, what we consider as moderate risk, and what we consider as low risk. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If not, then I'll just refer it back to Corey.
Partially an unresolved issue, I take it as there's still meaningful dialogue going back and
Correct.
forth? Okay, in all cases, it's not like they're blowing you off, but there is dialogue.
There's always dialogue back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
All right.
Yeah, and Rich, the unresolved issues too, more than likely, it's only been one follow-up
Right.
on those, so we would like to get them resolved on the first try, but we understand, things come
Okay.
up and risks change too, so we'll.
Right, as long as they're still engaged. I mean, they're just not
Yes, yeah, we have
pushing you.
not
Okay.
have problems with that.
What are some of the challenges dating back to 2008?
I'd say it's equally shared with the Department of Internal Audit and management. A lot of it has to do with us getting time to, and that was part of our process enhancements that we had. Would try to automate a lot of that in 2025, which is what I believe we were able to get to 88 of them. Which you can see getting to 88 of them in the last half of 26, we were able to close out a lot more. So that's one of them, but also with departments, things, example I think was economic development, personnel change, some processes change. So if we do have to spend more time reviewing that process, management or personnel getting up to speed on some things. So that's why it might, after the first attempt, we might have to come back for that second one because we weren't able to fully get through it or they weren't able to fully address it. So, I mean, I would say resources on the management side of things and on internal audit, just timing is, it's hard to get to when we had so many recommendations open for the last 4 or 5 years. So as long as what I would like to see, like we saw this year, is if we're starting to see, like a net reduction to outstanding recommendations going forward.
Or are you priority?
Yes, that's the goal every 6 months. We try to, at least within 12 months, we try to address all the P1s, all the high-risk areas. So even if there's a second follow-up, within 12 months, we'll try to follow up on that again. Yeah, the P2s and P3s will sometimes be a couple years before we can get back to it. But as you know, our requirements to testing the P1s, P2s, and 3s, P1s is really more, we'll sample it, we'll look into it more in detail, and then the P2s and 3s will be either send us support, we'll look at it, or P3s are communicate to us that it's been addressed and tell us how. So there's different requirements for every one of them. But yes, P1s, we tend to try to, every 12 months, be able to address those.
So are we at the point where we want to discuss the 4 items that are being escalated to the committee?
Yes, unless there's any other questions.
Just a quick question, the column follow-up count, is that the number of follow-ups in 2025 or since the audit was issued?
Is your mic on? Sorry.
In the column follow-up count, is that the number of follow-ups in 2025 or the total number of follow-ups since the audit report was issued?
On this, on this one.
On the 13th
Oh,
page.
sorry. Yeah, that's the number of times that we have followed up on that recommendation.
In
Since-
2025?
No, since we established this new process.
Okay,
So that would be, beginning of 2025. So, yeah, really, it actually happened to be, 2025 when those follow-up counts were started. So we kind of started everyone over in 2025 that we could,
okay,
based on that method, because it was a new methodology that was reached with the committee.
Okay.
It might have been the end of 24 when we did that.
okay. Because as Meltrice said, some of these have been there, for a while, and
Right.
you're seeing one follow-up. Okay, I got
We
you.
started tracking
Okay.
the actual attempts, so then
All
we can
right.
keep track of it and then attempt to close it in some way or work with the department and the
All right.
committee to solve it.
But that's only since you started to count that? Okay, all right,
Right, yeah, sorry,
all right.
that's correct. Okay. All right, is everyone's mics on, just to make sure? All right, any other questions? Okay, so the bottom of the memo, which is on page 4, what we're gonna do going forward is if there's any P1 higher risk recommendations that are gonna be escalated to the committee, we'll note them here, invite the department to come in to talk about it, answer any questions, and then we'll discuss what next steps are from the internal audit's perspective. So, beginning in 2025, the audit committee supported a new process, as we discussed, to reduce the number of follow-up tests and hours on issue tracking. If a finding remains unresolved after 2 follow-up attempts and exceeds the county's risk appetite, which we have as P1 findings, we will discuss our concerns with the department, the executive's office, and escalate the issue to the audit committee, which will be classified as risk accepted after those discussions. The audit committee will then review the issue at the next meeting, which is today, to determine next steps. This process does ensure that there's timely resolution and prevents findings from remaining open indefinitely. For this meeting, we do have 4 recommendations that we would like to bring up to the audit committee related to the 2020 IT inventory audit. They have undergone follow-up procedures more than 2 times since the audit, and details of the actual follow-up results are on pages 6 and 7 in the report. As part of the follow-up, a small sample was tested on inventory held in storage to ensure inventory records were complete, accurate, and items existed. And we tested 3-way matching of IT purchases, which would be from the purchase order to the packing slip and then to the invoice, to ensure that proper controls were in place and effectively working from the procurement to deployment and also to disposal. Just to note, recommendations that were not fully addressed include the recording of inventory held in storage. We did attempt to ensure accurate and timely recording of IT inventory upon receipt. We did find that these items, that there were items missing from inventory system but physically present. But we do note that these discrepancies were corrected during our review. We also found items listed in the inventory system but not physically located, which IT is correcting at the moment. 2, the implementation of a 3-way matching system to consistently match PO, the invoice, and the packing slip. While I will note that improvements were made over time to have the current system support this control, we did find discrepancies in 5 of the 10 purchase orders that were tested, which again, they were corrected under our review. Next steps for...
What is a discrepancy? I mean, give us an example.
That would be a PO didn't match, and Tom, if you don't mind talking a little more in detail, or Josh about this too. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, well, one example could be items in the purchase order that were received but not added to the inventory. Another example that Corey alluded to, a lack of a PO reference in the inventory, so just a lack of a 3-way match.
So we would be talking about, not that I am no implication of minimizing the issue of good record keeping, but we're not necessarily talking about cannot locate a valuable asset that is on the inventory and not physically present, or dollars not of a significant nature, not matching invoice to purchase order, those kinds of things. I'm just trying to understand whether the consequence of the poor record keeping, we've identified there's been a cost to the county as a result of the poor record keeping.
Well, we
My
did...
question makes sense? Okay.
Yeah, we did. So we did identify that there were assets recorded in the inventory system that we could not find in storage. So that was one of them. I believe there were 7 of them that were they're from a long time ago. I can't remember the year.
Could you make some estimate of the dollar value at acquisition of those assets?
Acquisition, those would be those 11. It was 7 computers. I don't recall the year. Go ahead, Josh.
The costs aren't tracked in the inventory, so that's something we wouldn't be able to see easily. We would have to trace it back to the original purchase.
Yeah, if you just assume 1,000 each, it's $7,000 for.
Okay,
And that's a small sample size.
Right.
Because you
Right.
said 5 out of
right.
10. So if you extrapolate that to
Right.
the larger population,
Right.
it could.
And that's why, another reason we're bringing this up too is because we are going through our IT. We're going through our asset and inventory management audit this year. So since with these follow-up reviews, we were only able to look at a small sample size, that with this with this audit going forward on just the county-wide asset and inventory management, we'll be able to pull more and see how the processes are working now going
Right.
forward.
So I may be going down a rabbit hole, and if I am, just please get me out of it. We could have a laptop that's on our inventory, we can't find it in storage. Are we able to have any information, or was any information available to you about sort of chain of custody of that laptop before it was no longer physically present? And if so, any patterns evolved to people, departments, or what have you?
Again, I think, what do you have the year that was? I know those 7 were older ones, but other than it was noted that it was in the inventory system, that's all.
So a possibility is they could have been just discarded as obsolete and not recorded
That's
as
possible.
such.
Right.
Or somebody may have walked off with it. We just don't know. Okay. All right. Thank you.
What was the thought process behind accepting the risk? What
This-
rationale did they give you?
Well, this is I want to say this is our fifth follow-up on this testing. Fourth or fifth follow-up from 2020. So they're here if they want to talk about it a little bit. I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
So I certainly invite you, I'm sorry I don't know your names, but invite you to help us understand this is intended to be a process to create improvements. This is not, despite
I don't
the
mean to
tone I may be giving off, is not an inquisition. So appreciate you being here and helping us out.
No, I appreciate the time. My name is Andy Johnson, Chief Information Officer for the county. There's Jeremy Mio, who is the Deputy Chief, what do we call you these days, Technology Officer, very important member of my team who can answer all the detailed questions. So we're happy, and thank you for having us, and thank you for the opportunity to respond to some of this. I've got a couple prepared remarks. Let me just, and I'll keep this very, very brief. So first, I want to thank the internal audit team. They dove into this, gave us some detail that we didn't have, and we take the results of what they found very, very seriously. It was an effort on their part to look into these discrepancies, and we had some back and forth on this. I'll tell you, there's a couple things that Corey and I disagree on, and keep me honest here, Corey. But when we talk about, when I look at the results of this audit, and I know that this has been going on for years, a lot of I'm not denying that a decade ago, 15 years ago, there were some significant problems with our IT inventory. And through the work with IA, or particularly of late, we have implemented all of the controls that have been recommended. Now, we have maybe some slight differences. I'll discuss those in just a second. We have implemented those controls. And when we look at these discrepancies we have right now that we have found, we really find in my mind, two items. We have some manual problems, right? Because this isn't an integrated system that we have. This is manual effort. We're not scanning things that go to a nice inventory system. We're not scanning when we move them from point A to point B. So we have manual, and so sometimes that's missed. And we're going to work on discipline. We're going to work on maybe ways to catch this with some compensating controls. Sorry, and if I use the wrong term, again, Corey, keep me honest here. To get those manual controls a little bit more in shape. The second thing is one of the big items that came up is this concept of when we get in a pallet, let's say, of PCs, right? So we might get a pallet of 30 PCs in. And what we don't do is we don't pull each PC off that pallet, open it up, unpack it, tag it, repack it, and put it back on the pallet. We keep those on the pallet, and as we distribute those PCs, that's when we'll tag it at that point. My view, I'm dealing with limited resources. I'm dealing with a lot of demands. That value of pulling it out, tagging it, and putting it back, I don't think is worth our manual effort. And on the other hand, all of these PCs are in secured storages. They're in cages. They're in secured rooms on our floor. So when I think about that, I think about the risk of theft there, I think might be lower than maybe what the internal audit staff believes. I also believe that we have technology embedded in these PCs, so if there is theft, we can track these PCs, and quite often we'll get it. Hey, you know, someone swiped a PC out of my car in the lot down at the Days Inn. Okay, we're able to turn that over to the sheriff, and through investigation, we're able to locate that PC. So we have technology there that helps reduce that risk of, well, I shouldn't say reduce the risk of theft, but it will allow us to track that and recover that asset. So those two are in my mind as what kind of the gist of what this audit found. So I'll sum it up, manual effort. We're going to work on ways to improve our manual and do double checking on this. But then the second one is something that we're not probably going to change our process, and that is this pallet load of inventory. We do record that we have this pallet of inventory, so that is a separate list. We don't put it in our, what we call our CMDB. So we have that, and so we invite for future audits to be able to take that pallet recording. We got those 30 PCs in. We've taken 10, which are recorded in our CMDB. We should be able to have 20 PCs sitting on that pallet. So that would be the check that we can do there going forward. And that is a relatively new control that we put into place. Okay, I know I've talked more than I said I was going to, which my boss has given me the idea to wrap this up. But I do want
Well,
to.
just a question on
Sure.
on the process. So the pallet's sitting there, it's got 30. There's a list, a manual list. We've got 30 there. Now we've issued 2. Is that list being amended that shows we've taken 2 out and there still should be 28 on the pallet?
Are we? Oh, okay. I was going to say no, we didn't need to, but actually, that's why Jeremy's here.
So
We
if-
actually do
If
amend
you
that.
have that, could you, when you go to the pallet, and take the 2 out, and now your listing should show 28, it seemed to me it wouldn't take but a minute to verify, yeah, there's still 28 unissued boxes sitting on that pallet, and be aware in near real time if there's a discrepancy, if a few have gone missing. Is that something that could be done, and that's been
yeah, okay.
discussed?
So Jeremy O here.
I don't want to try to micromanage the process.
No,
That's
that's
their
something that's
job,
being
but-
done, and that was implemented during right before, during the audit period. So we have that. During their audit review, that wasn't fully in process. We had the listings. We just didn't have the specific tie to the order of that pallet yet. So in their findings, they had a screenshot of that system, but one of the columns weren't filled out because we implemented that during, this past year.
Does that address the three-way match? I don't
Yeah,
feel like I hear,
Yeah,
a
that
solution
would
there.
address a three-way match. I will point out, just like Andy said, there were, things that we agreed to disagree on, and mainly because the listing that we got during our review time, that some of those controls were not put in place. Our biggest thing was, our biggest risk was obviously theft. If anything comes into storage, if it's not being accurately tracked, how do we know it doesn't walk off? And I know LoJack, you can see where it is, but also how do you know it's even gone? And I understand there's other security controls in place, so that's what with the audit coming up this year is we are going to look to make sure those controls are working. They weren't during our review, just because I know it was more recent that, and I believe you started it even before our review, but I think just having a complete, accurate list of it was still hard to come by. So that's
But from a practical matter, the department is doing an audit this year, and you'll be able to observe whether the controls that have been put in place, even though they aren't necessarily all the controls that you would recommend, we'd be able to observe whether they are working or not, and possibly clear this item if, as a result of this year's follow-up audit. Do I have the
right.
sequence?
That is correct. These are recommendations from a 2020 audit. hence the reason why we have the new process with the follow-up process, trying to get these resolved within 2 to 3 years. So these recommendations, I don't want to say are outdated. For the most part, they're not, but I think if we can go in and do a full assessment and review of this process along with all county inventory and asset processes, that we can look at this more in detail.
Can you talk about the 7 assets that we're missing, the age and the normal process of when you cycle these things out?
Yeah, so the, as I mentioned at the start, you know, there were poor practices, you know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. So our data isn't accurate from back then at times. And so these 7 assets that were found were, I think on average, 11 years old. So to the question of the value of those assets, right, there's 0 value to those assets. Most likely, we can't prove this, most likely those assets were disposed of. We have a disposal process where we collect these in and then we dispose of these assets. To the point of, you know, hey, if we extrapolate that out, right, and that's a point Corey was making to me. Hey, it was these 7, yeah, these 7 are 11 years old. But what if we looked at additional 7, what would we find? And then if we kept extrapolating for the 2,000 PCs, 2,500 PCs that we have, right? So yeah, okay, that might happen, but based on the other, we don't think that, we're pretty confident that if we extrapolate that out, we're just going to find other PCs from back in the day that were not recorded as being disposed of properly. You know, I'll take this opportunity to kind of go off the rails here a little bit. On the second thing, I feel like I need to complete my thought on that. And on the second thing where maybe Corey and I disagree with is the level of risk of this particular item. Where I come from in my past, there's kind of dollar thresholds, right, on what risk is. Are we looking, you know, is high risk in a $2 billion enterprise? Is it $10,000? Is it $1 million? Is it $10 million? Is it $100 million? And so as I think about this, let's just say it's $1 million is what we're going to say is high risk. Well, as we just saw, we've got 2,000 PCs. You know, to hit $1 million at 2,000 piece, to hit $1 million at $2,000 a piece of PCs, I mean, that's 500 PCs we would have to be missing to hit that $1 million threshold, if I'm making any sense here. We would know, there's no possible way we wouldn't know that we're missing 500 PCs. So I'm just kind of questioning and challenging the group here on what we'd call high risk, because in my mind, yeah, we want to strive, we're going to work better, we're going to get our inventory tighter, we're going to get these 7 items, we're going to keep trying to clean this up. But to call this high risk, I will tell you, I don't sleep at nights, but this is not an issue that I lose sleep over. You know, we think our controls are solid in place, that okay, yeah, we might miss one, but I disagree with the idea of calling it a high risk item.
Let me ask you this. There's a value to the piece of hardware, but there's value to the data that may be contained within that piece of hardware that might be completely outsized in terms of the actual value of the hardware itself. Is there any concern? I mean, I don't know what our policies are. Maybe everything's in the cloud and nothing is on a PC. I don't know, but is there any issue if we can't? I sense that things have improved, so let me say, but should we be concerned that valuable data, personal information, any of those kinds of security issues are at play in this inventory issue that go beyond the value of the actual piece of hardware?
I think that's a great recognition of where the value is, right? It can be a worthless piece of hardware, but contain very valuable information on that. And so generally, everything is password protected. So, you know, you can't really get into it without that password, the user profile and password. However, with that, and I'll rely on my security officer here to back me up on this, we have methods in place to clean that. We have methods in place to protect the data that might be found on that PC or in the cloud if you use that PC that you stole or recovered to access our information inside the cloud. Is that
Yeah, so
Fair.
all devices are fully encrypted. So any one of these devices, if they were stolen, they would be bricks. After 60 days, if it doesn't call back home, it's a brick. You can't really use it. Corey mentioned about a LoJack software, which is called Absolute software. It's embedded by the manufacturer before we buy it, so you can't remove it. Even when we dispose assets, if we don't dispose them properly, they'll show up because they're recycled to schools or others. That will happen every once in a while, but we'll still always know that machine is. So again, a little lower risk. I agree with Andy here. Again, we have controls in place to protect the data.
Okay, thank you.
And this is only laptops? That's the only kind of equipment we're talking about?
No, great question. We have things like firewalls, we have things like switches, have things like wireless access points. It seems that PCs tend to be where we focus, but it's a good point. This includes all of our assets. So a server that we might be configuring, which we don't do a whole lot of that anymore, but a firewall might be a great example. These are expensive pieces of equipment that we do take great care of as we walk through the process of the configuration. So all of our assets up above $500 or something like that are tagged.
And I will say there were no discrepancies. Corey, correct me if I'm wrong here. There were no discrepancies in our most expensive systems. So anything over like, again, $5,000, our server hardware architecture, all that's static. It doesn't move around. So we don't really have any issue tracking it. It's in a data center or it's, in a workroom.
Corey, I'm just trying to understand, we've got 4 items listed here. Are we moving up and down between them in this, among them in this discussion,
they're-
or have we
they're
got
all-
hung up on one and,
No, they're all related.
okay.
Yeah, the testing we performed related to these results all would capture all 4 of those recommendations.
Well, I feel like I've heard enough. I mean, I think that they have solid controls in place, and I think that once we audit them again this year, we should find that they have remediated a lot of these issues. So I feel good if they're all related.
I agree. I mean, just going back to, what was it, Corey, 2016, I think, our IT inventory audit where we found.
Started in 2018. I think,
Yeah. It's night and day. So I don't know if we have to take any action on what happens with these. Do they go off the list now, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll just make sure as we do our planning for this, that we incorporate some of these risks to make sure that they've been addressed and we don't have the.
What about the
discrepancies.
first one where we're talking about policies and procedures not established? Under issue title?
That's the issue title. The recommendation was to ensure optimal use of the system for IT inventory. So the Sharewell, they utilize Sharewell right now for that. And I know they put a lot of fields and controls in there to track it all. It's just with our review, we didn't see it all was being, there were still some discrepancies. They weren't all being tracked the way that it was set up to be tracked. And I know a lot has changed since then. So we'll just go through and make sure that that's actually occurring with this review coming up.
But I will note to you guys too, and then anytime there's a break or gap in your internal controls, that is considered high risk, especially since there are high quality assets going through your department. So I understand why you wanted to bring that to our attention. I didn't want to minimize
No, I
what you were doing. I get that you guys are going back and forth, but I do want to know that I understand why you would want to bring that to
I
our
understand
attention.
where they're coming from.
Yeah.
I think the comment I made to Andy during our call was, we view it as if there's a high risk of theft, which, for our results, there was still the potential, that you're dealing with taxpayer dollars and items that, if they do walk off, I understand you have a detective control to find that, but the preventative control would be to appropriately track it so you know where it is from the beginning. And then also and I don't think it's material, but underreporting of inventory too, if it's not fully tracked, would be another one.
So I think we've, hopefully we're near an end of the discussion. I'm feeling that this has been a productive process, bringing this to the committee's attention. It gives me comfort that representatives of the executive's office, representative and council are aware of these issues, and a sense is, from an audit committee standpoint, that we've helped identify an issue that if they either branch of government felt needed to go further, it's out there. And so while the department might have accepted the risk, I sort of view that the executive branch and council is in the ability, in the position to accept the risk as well. And that makes me feel we've done our job as a committee, and at least speaking for myself, sort of willing to leave it as agreeing to disagree because it's been exposed the way that it has.
Right. Thank you. I do want to thank Andy and Jeremy and their team. They've been
Absolutely
great to work with throughout this whole review. And I know when we started this audit back in 2018, I think it was just me and Jeremy, and that they have come a long way, and the controls are there definitely. So I think it'll be positive results here this summer. Which one is that? Oh, yes, yeah, we've met with fiscal office and we've met with Public Works to get started, right?
Okay, thank you very much. Really
Thank you for the
appreciate it.
opportunity.
And,
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Corey.
we couldn't have done it without your presence, so appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, next item on the agenda is released reports. Is that where we're going to talk about the continuous monitoring?
Yes.
Okay.
So released reports, every meeting, we do provide a summary of our key highlights from each audit report released between quarterly meetings. This presentation will cover what our audit scope was, our key findings and recommendations, and any management action plans to address identified issues. The Department of Internal Audit's continuous monitoring efforts were sent to the committee on December 31st, released on January 15th. These reviews were conducted as advisory engagements in accordance with the standards, with the goal of strengthening governance, risks, management, and internal controls across key county functions. So the primary objective was to provide timely audit coverage through ongoing assessment of inherently higher risk areas. The report is actually in your, I don't know if we included it in a, right. Sorry if we didn't include it in the printed version, but it's a link on the agenda that I sent out on Friday, and I also have it up here. So I'll actually, just for that reason, I'll put it on this page if you can see it. Areas that we focused on, particularly in 2025, were cash collection points, which were in the treasurer's office and auto title, employee reimbursements, which was over multiple departments, including HHS, Public Works, and the Sheriff's Office, procurement card purchases or P-card purchases, which were across 16 different departments, and pay rate accuracy, which are over bargaining unit employees and new hires. We did perform targeted testing for accuracy of transactions and effectiveness of internal controls throughout the year for all these processes. Our overall assessment, overall results, which I have on the screen here, is that we determined that the controls are generally operating effectively across these functions, but we did note some improvement opportunities and some non-compliance that were identified. So I'll go through those in high detail or high summary, and then if there's any questions after that, I can go into more detail. On the cash collection points, we did note that there were no discrepancies found in the 2 cash collection points reviewed. Going forward, our goal is, with continuous monitoring, to try to hit every cash collection point throughout the year. So what we do there are more surprise cash counts and make sure that the cash in the drawer matches the system as we go through that. And then we also identify if there's any control gaps, which we did. We did note that there were safe combinations that were not being changed after staff turnover, and that policies were not reviewed regularly. So we gave them those recommendations during those reviews, and we'll follow up on those as we go through our 2026 continuous monitoring reviews. Employee reimbursements, we reviewed reimbursements to verify supporting documentation was maintained and that department approval was evident. The exception rate on these was very low. We looked at 45 reimbursements and only found 2 exceptions to that, which one being that we found that there was a transaction that was missing an itemized receipt. Then we also found that there were travel reimbursements that exceeded 40% of gratuities on those travel reimbursements. So in December of 2025, the fiscal office did issue reminders out on reimbursement and travel policy reimbursements, including meal gratuities to 20%, limiting it to 20%. On P-card purchases, we did note that all purchases were supported. We did find one, but then obtained that support during the audit. So that was a positive result there. We did note that there were transactions that exceeded the county's transaction limit per the P-card policy, but the department did issue communication to P-card users to ensure all users are aware of that transaction limit.
Corey, how much were they over?
$1.
Oh, okay, that's the.
It
one
was,
okay,
yeah, it's
all right.
$9.99 to $1,000, so the transactions were $1 over. Pay rate accuracy, we did review over 1,400 pay rates for new hires and union agreements.
Can we go back to that, the $1,000?
You don't need to spend a ton of time, I'll say that.
I mean,
We had
it
to
just,
note
if that's the limit and that's what gets spent, I'm guessing whatever the purchase was, wasn't an even $1,000. There's just something that doesn't sit
Yeah,
well.
the ones that we found were, a lot of them were trainings. So purchasing trainings, if it was, $200 for
okay.
5 individuals.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, they were.
okay.
Okay. I know Trevor liked that one. On the pay rate accuracy results, we did review 1,400 pay rates for for new hires and unions to verify actual pay rates were in compliance with the CBAs. We did find 3 discrepancies out of the 1,400 pay rates, exception rate of 0.2%, which was a very good result out of the amount that we tested. They appear to be due mainly to data entry errors. They were corrected during the audit. So again, overall, controls were mostly effective. So I think these were positive results for our first year of doing continuous monitoring. We did not start these efforts until later in the year, mid-year, just because we were getting everything in order to start it. So this year we will have more results to report on, especially the cash collection points. So I do want to note that. So unless there's any additional questions on these results, I'd like to, no, I don't need approval. That's all.
Do we have any additional questions? Okay, well, thank you for the report. It's a valuable process. Roughly how many hours of your resources is devoted to the continuous monitoring? I'm sure it's listed in something else we saw or the budget earlier, but just refresh our memories.
Close to about 500. Right. 500, 700 was budgeted. Again, we did not, the main reason for that, so for the total hours that we have allocated for the year, as you can see that we went over on the majority of our actual projects. So we have to compensate that for somewhere else that we're working on. And unfortunately, continuous monitoring, we have to areas that we may have to just reduce testing or not do as much just to accomplish.
So I'm not an expert. There may be others here far more expert than I am on statistical sampling. I'm the benefit of great software that tells me whether our sample sizes are right, wrong, or indifferent. Do we utilize any specific approach to determining sample size and whether we're statistically significant? And
Yes, I can answer this, but I think Josh would be the better. I mean, we use, it's all in Excel, but we take all the data that for that quarter, so these were based on quarters, and we pick 15 out of it. What we're trying to do is pick 15 transactions out of the either higher risk areas, like HHS was one of them, for travel reimbursements, or higher dollar amount areas. So we want to make sure that we are not hitting a department, twice during the year. So we'll eliminate it that way. So we'll take it's almost like high dollar, high.
well, I hear that, and Rich, you may be able to help me out a little bit on this one in terms of so the sample size having to be relevant to the population to have like specific confidence level.
I had a short conversation with Corey about this when the report came out about possibly using analytics as part of this process to kind of even move away from sampling and maybe to get the fire started, when we have the third parties come in here to assist with the IT audits, just maybe use a couple hours of their time to kind of say, okay, here's how we've been doing it. Tell us how analytics may allow us to actually look at everything in a more real-time basis.
Yeah, and the theory there would be to pull out only the ones that appear to be high-risk areas or have discrepancies based on, I know like Benford's Law would be one of them that we tried to do here years ago. But yeah, no, we have IDEA, the data analytics software that we did use a lot in the past, but just especially for the first year, I mean that's something I think that we can do going forward, and I'd love to do that, and I think it's a good idea to utilize the firms for some expertise on how to get there.
All right, so there was one instance, if I read correctly or understood correctly in this report, I think it was one instance where it appeared to me that an individual or group of individuals tried to do a work around the P-card limit by breaking up a purchase into multiple P-cards or multiple people or multiple transactions. So apparently somebody intentionally trying to subvert or subvent the system. In a case like that, is there reporting to the proper supervisor and any follow-up that occurs?
Yeah, what we noted there, and I mean to throw you under the bus, I don't know if it was you, Lee, I meant procurement that sent it out. One of the things that we noticed there was that the definition in the P-card policy of what a transaction is, so like some of the things that we were told is that if you have a quantity of 5, each one of them was a specific transaction. So then that got you over the $1,000 limit or whatever. So one of our recommendations there was try to define what the P-card policy means as far as like what's a transaction, that $999 limit. So we documented what took place. It went off to procurement to be taken care of, but our ultimate recommendation there, at least going forward, is make it clear what transaction is rather than a purchase and transaction seem to be used a lot. P-card policy and in the throughout the departments.
Okay.
Hopefully that makes sense.
In this instances where, sorry, a lot of times in these instances, someone may be sending their team to a training, and the P-card limit, a daily limit is $1,000, but they may need to send 6 people. at like, let's call it, my math is bad, 150 each. So the 6 times 150 exceeds $1,000, so then they try to break up into a like 5 and 1, where it's still, in theory, the same transaction, but they're trying to get the item to be under the P card limit, if that makes sense. A lot of people, what they've been asking, because most of the time they are using P cards for the training, is can we raise their limit? And at this point, we don't want to raise the limit above $1,000 because then it involves doing encumbrances, it exceeds the
And the revised code.
threshold, yeah,
There's no
and
law,
it becomes this whole other item. So what we've asked them to do is, if possible, to run that through AP so that it doesn't exceed or cause any issues
Right.
with our current P card policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
Keith, I also want to mention that this, the department that you see here for the split transactions is a non-executive agency as well. So we did talk to procurement about that. If you have non-executive agencies utilizing this P card policy in the program, they still should be following the policy.
Right.
So that, I know they were notified of these transactions.
Now, do they have system control, like, depending upon who you're using for your P card, can they, with this one issue where it was $9.99 as opposed to $1,000, can they cut it off at $9.99?
So so previously what was happening, so the limit is $9.99, so the P card provider was rejecting it. And so then they would go back, that's when they would do like the 5 and the, right, break it up to, yeah.
Okay. Anything else? We're good. Okay, next item on the agenda is status of current engagements.
So the BVA in front of the committee today is the 2025 audit plan, as we still had some hours that we worked on 2025 engagements in 2026. This was included in the, I believe it's the same one, right, Josh? Yeah. Included in the monthly update, so there's no changes to that. But I know Josh would like to walk through a few things.
All right, so regarding 2025, all the individual engagements we've pretty much talked about as they were released and presented here. With the exception of 3, opioid and the cybersecurity. So I'll talk about those. So the completed schedule. The budget hours themselves, as Corey mentioned, we did only use 500 hours versus the anticipated budget of 700 hours, and that was due to offset the overage and other engagements. As for what current engagements we have going on, right now we have the 2 carryover from the 2025 plan, which is the opioid and the cybersecurity. Regarding the opioid, we're still in the planning phase. We're currently documenting their processes and developing a risk control matrix to end into an audit program and procedures. We don't expect to exceed the delivery date of April 2026 as last reported. For cybersecurity, we're in the fieldwork phase. Corey could probably provide more detail. However, we're currently working with IT to complete the testing thus far. Work's been completed on 2 of the 3 major areas. Those areas are governance and risk management. Control testing is still in process. We expect the report to actually be released somewhere around the end of March versus the report of February. Unfortunately, there's been some competing priorities, most notably current shift in focus as we turn to efforts on the property tax audit as soon as possible. So with the 2026 plan that you guys just approved, of the 10 planned assurance and consulting engagements, we've actually started 5 already. So continuous monitoring and issue tracker, those are always going on, so I'm counting those in there. The other 3 would be the property tax accuracy, inventory asset management, and county budgeting. So for property tax accuracy, we actually have the entrance conference scheduled for next week. The other two we've already met with, and initial planning is in process. So, any questions?
Don't see anybody.
I like you.
Um, Next item on the agenda. Regular. And, um, to go into
Mr. Chairman.
prescribed, let's go into executive session. I don't have that, so, Mark, you help me out?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Could I have a motion to approve going into executive session to discuss pending or imminent court action?
Is there- Motion move into executive session.
Roll call, yeah.
Roll call.
All right, calling roll, Trevor McLear,
Yes.
Keith Libman, Mel Tree Sharp, and Richard Molina.
Yes.
Okay,